Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022 and our SuperNova commencement shows, first one of the year. We're really excited that you are here with us today, joining us. I know many of you are not yet back to school. I think that starts next week. So we're excited that you're joining us today and that you've got some time to sit back and relax and enjoy our conversation. We are streaming live everywhere that we usually stream live: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. So hopefully you got some rest and relaxation and you're ready for a great conversation. So today we're talking about digital transformation. What is that? We're going to find out what that is, but I'll give you a sense. Digital transformation is about how a company changes or an organization, an ecosystem, an industry, how they change and how they use technology, data, processes, like any kinds of things to make that change. Anything digital. So digital transformation. Okay. So we partner with a great company called Stepping Blocks. They give us a bunch of career data, and you should definitely be on the platform, steppingblocks.com. They will help you figure out what you want to do, how to match up your skill sets with careers and all kinds of great things. They have 100 million people more worth of data. Okay, so looking at digital transformation on the platform, the most common degree is a degree in real estate, which is actually very interesting. A lot of people in the field get a real estate degree and then go into transformation. There are about 275,000 people working across the field in different ways. Average age of the industry is 39, and it's predominantly male, 62%. Top skills: business analysis, systems integration, and cloud computing. Makes sense. There are a lot of digital type of assets flowing through there. And then skills that maybe make you a little bit more in terms of your career: enterprise architecture, software as a service, so SaaS, lots of SaaS companies out there these days, and enterprise software. A lot of people come from these schools within the industry. So UT Austin, University of Texas, Austin seems to be the most represented. Penn State, Texas A&M, and then since they're a Georgia school, I had to mention them. UGA, University of Georgia, which is, I'm from Georgia, although I'm a yellow jacket. They are 8th on the list, so represented in that top 10 list. All right, so today we are chatting with a very fun person, and I'm going to bring her on screen. Everybody, please welcome Courtney Knapp to our show. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Kashi. How are you? Nice to see you.
Doing well. Good to see you. All right, everyone. So Courtney is the director of digital transformation at Nike and a triathlete and lots of fun things. So we are going to talk with her today about her career journey. So let's get started. So Courtney, kick us off, please. Tell us where you're from and where you went to school, what you majored in.
I'm originally from upstate New York. I went to school for economics, and I went to Hillsdale College and then George Mason University.
How did you end up at George Mason from upstate New York?
It's a kind of a winding path, but I played sports in college. I played soccer and I ran track, and I actually got hurt in college and reconsidered what I was going to do. And I took a little bit of time off and I worked and I transferred and ended up at George Mason because I started working at the university in one of their economic research departments doing international development work, actually.
Oh, cool. So see, look, what a non-traditional way to lead yourself through school. I love that. So your job influenced kind of what you went into.
Definitely. I think learning how to deal with unexpected challenges and building resilience are things that started probably in high school and college and are certainly part of my career path now.
Yeah, especially as an athlete. You definitely learn that. So, how did you get from George Mason to where you are today at Nike? What was the career path?
It's a great question. I worked at George Mason while I was going to school at night, and I was working at the university, finishing up my degree. I transferred 5 semesters into my first school, and after that, because I didn't have the opportunity to do a gap year or study abroad because of sports, I decided to take a fellowship through Rotary International. And I lived in South America for a year, doing volunteer work and working with a partner university. And then I came back and decided I wanted to continue working specifically in economics. So I worked in economic consulting for Bates White, also in the Washington, D.C. area, where I looked at product liability, mergers and acquisitions, started to really hone some of my financial modeling and business analytics skills, really started to take the skills that I learned in school and apply them into the real world for programming and for modeling, which was really interesting hands-on work. Consulting was a great experience. It's also really long hours, really challenging. And I then decided I wanted to work outside of consulting. The economy was sort of shifting at the time. It was 2008. A lot of people were encouraging me to go to graduate school. I decided I was going to keep working. And I went in-house at a firm that does litigation support and communications, and ran their market research and market intelligence teams, doing analytic work as a liaison between the legal team and the PR team. And from there, I got recruited to DirecTV to run their market intelligence team, which was in Los Angeles. So I ended up in California for a variety of personal and professional reasons. Ended up working at DirecTV, doing their market intelligence and insights work, which is business analysis, forecasting, market assessments, really, again, using those math and econ skills that I developed in school. AT&T purchased DirecTV. I worked through the merger because I had that skill set in consulting. Ended up working in the insights and innovation team at AT&T, which led me to working within the startup community and the startup pipeline at AT&T as we were considering ways to transform our customer experience and the back end of some of our products and services within AT&T and for our customers. And then from there, I got a call to come to Portland, Oregon and work at Nike, which seemed like a combination of my interests, being a lifelong jock and somebody who's interested in helping make companies smarter and more efficient.
Yeah, does seem like a great combination of interests. Absolutely. Okay, so
I call it mathletic. Right?
Oh, it's good. That's a good franchise name, Mathletics. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned startups, and I just have a quick question about that. So you were part of a team that worked with startups at AT&T?
I was, yeah.
That's cool.
AT&T has a partnership with an accelerator in Silicon Valley where they're able to review and partner and consider POCs with startups. AT&T also has a long history of incubating their own technology and innovation. Some of the folks on the call may be familiar with Bell Labs. But for an older company, AT&T still got some really new and interesting ideas and is really interested in continuing to find innovation. So I was very lucky to be on that innovation team there and loved being immersed in the startup culture and really understanding what new ideas and technologies could help the company and really focus on making things more data-driven, more efficient, more delightful for customers. And just at a personal level, it was fun to get to see some really interesting robotics happening and other stuff totally unrelated to my job that just happened to be happening around me, which I really liked.
Yeah. At innovation at a company, does that mean working with startups, or do companies also look at innovation in other ways?
It's both. I think companies that do innovation really well are looking for opportunities everywhere. They're encouraging innovation among their employees. They're looking at their competitors. They're looking at best in class, but also best in everywhere to try to come up with new ideas. I think when you coming from telecommunications, one of the things I really appreciated was not looking at how to be best in telecommunications, but how to be best in anything. So AT&T looked to lots of other companies besides, your Comcasts and your Verizons for ideas, which I liked.
Yeah. That's so interesting. So, do you feel like that innovation experience influenced how you looked at your job, like in market intelligence, and how you really thought about the market?
Absolutely. Um, I think coming up with a broader perspective, looking outside your immediate competitors, looking at uh, other ways customers are experiencing consuming media, buying things online, the quality of websites, the quality of user interfaces and user experiences. If you're limiting yourself to your little slice of the internet, you are probably not seeing everything that could be going better or more smooth. So I think it's great to have a broader perspective. And I think it's been helpful for me in a variety of ways to look outside of my category and really look at what's happening broadly in the world as consumer behavior changes, but also as we move to a more digital experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you brought up digital. Could you tell us a little bit in your own words and you live it and breathe it every day? What is digital transformation?
Um, I think you did a great job in the intro. It is really different at different places, but at a high level, it's coming up with efficient, data-driven processes and systems to improve whatever the goals are of your specific company. So whether that's creating better design or making negotiations data-driven and faster, or making a purchasing experience easier. There's so many ways to look at how we are using experiences that are now digital, that are formerly manual, and coming up with ways to automate, track, and improve them.
Would you say that you use a lot of math, or is it very statistics driven, or is there room for a non-math major within digital transformation?
I don't have a degree in real estate, so
Okay.
Yes, I think there is a space for creative, innovative problem solvers in this space. There is a lot of, coding and statistics and A/B testing and considerations of how data flows and that enterprise architecture piece that you hit on. But there's also room for the creative, nonlinear thinker who can say, this is a way I think we could be improving a process in partnership with the architect, engineer, and software developer who are going to build those processes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. What
I
skills
lean a
would you?
little more on the math side, but
Yeah.
I do interact with lots of very creative people.
Well, yeah, because you need both, right? You need both ways of thinking about something. So there's room for all ways of all skill sets. So, but what skill sets would you say you use the most as part of your role? And how did you really hone those? How did you develop those skills?
I think in the last few roles that I've had, one of the skills that's been most valuable is the ability to communicate with a series of different stakeholders, whether that's tech, legal, the business and engineering, or it's a software engineer and a brand manager who are needing to work together to solve a problem. But I think being able to understand and communicate with different stakeholders has been a skill I've worked on, and one that's proven to be very valuable working at a space that I would call the intersection of a series of professional areas. Time management and prioritization. Everybody wants to digitally transform first. Everybody wants to be faster and more efficient. Everyone's always looking for data. Not everybody wants to put governance definitions around data. So sometimes letting people know that we've got to walk before we run, or we've got to do some work to set up the ecosystem behind the work, or that there's a dependency in the workflow, and being able to prioritize and look at those different dependencies and also communicate them clearly as to why we're making those decisions. And then, there's pulling and joining data and tables to make sure that you're generating insights, data visualization to make sure that you're explaining the data in a way that's clear and understandable to all audiences. And then, I think those are the biggest things. So clear communication, visualizing data, prioritization and time management, and then storytelling, explaining to all kinds of people the value of data and what data means when you're seeing it as you're building systems and tools.
So you just mentioned a whole bunch of different skill sets that, like, storytelling doesn't seem like it goes with all of those, right? But it's such a crucial part of communicating. How did you, one, figure that out, and two, practice this? Like, you're talking about communicating with so many different types of roles within an organization, and engineers hear and think differently than salespeople, who hear and think differently than creatives. How do you navigate that?
I'm still figuring it out. I wish I had the secret sauce to share to the students, but it's listening. It's being an active listener. It's trying to understand how people think and what resonates with them, what keeps them up at night, and what their priorities are. And then trying to connect the different priorities and motivations for people. It's a lot of listening. I talk a lot, but I listen a lot too. It's one of the things that I like to say. But sometimes it's just trying to really understand the different groups and be the person who's the hub and the spoke, and liaising between those. I guess I don't have a better.
Well, no, that's good though. But it's something that we hear time and time again from executives. Listening is so important because it really allows you to understand where that other party is coming from, where that other department is coming from, what their concerns are, what they're really thinking about. And then you can really communicate much more effectively and work with them much more effectively because you know what's important to them. So
I have a pen and paper notebook that I'm constantly taking notes in, which is sort of funny in digital transformation since it's the opposite of digital. But this very analog way of kind of constantly writing notes and reminding myself what people are focused on, and what seems to get them excited, what seems to make them nervous. I try to keep those points in mind, and I do take a lot of notes in my meetings. So I don't know. I wouldn't call it like the Da Vinci style unreadable notes, but it does seem to be very specifically reminding me of how other people operate.
I think that's important. I think that's a skill set that you can really start honing even through classes and through school as you're like working in groups with people. Like, how are they, really responding what's important to them. That's a skill set that's very fundamental that you can start working on now.
And I think the development of soft skills like that, understanding group dynamics, when you're managing a group of people that's very different, or different ages from different places, different time zones, different countries, it makes such a big difference to try to be the to try to make everyone feel understood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Data and privacy is a huge deal right now, and we're talking about digital transformation. Is that something that comes up in your day-to-day thought process as you think about how to transform or what to transform?
I care a lot about data privacy and data security. In telecommunications, it's huge, because there is so much access to data, and so it's something that I'm very keenly aware of. I wouldn't. It's not under my purview in my role right now, but I recognize how important it is to have clear definitions, governance, good security in place to protect consumer data, but also to make sure that you're considering the kinds of attributes that are valuable and also the kinds of attributes that are sensitive when you're thinking about consumer behavior, for shopping, buying, moving around the internet, because there is so much collected. So
Sure.
I'm aware of it, but it's not. It's a consideration in what I do in my current role, but it's certainly something that I considered differently in a different industry. If that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're in tech, you're in digital, in the digital world. What trends are you seeing in technology that you think is going to be vital for companies in 2022?
I think across the world right now, across industries, across categories, we're seeing people embrace the idea of fast failing and iterating, which I love. I think it's really exciting to see companies experimenting and trying new ideas and then quickly being able to hold a retrospective and create a slightly different or totally different version of that product because they've created an agile system that allows them to make quick changes. So that idea of fast failure being embraced across categories, I love. That's something that comes from software and engineering, but is now you're seeing it in all kinds of industries, and I think that's a great positive trend. And
It's very startup centric,
yeah,
that thought process.
which I love. I think that's like a great. It's optimism, it's enthusiasm, and it's the ability to know that the thing that you did isn't exactly right, and then keep tinkering. I think that's wonderful. And I think personalization is the other big trend that I'm noticing across categories. And that could be the personalization of something that you're wearing, but it could just be applications understanding you better based on data that they're collecting in the application or tool that you're using with them, but also through other applications and experiences on the internet. And I think, or off the internet, I mean, creating better recommendations through omni-channel data collection, I think is a really interesting way to approach personalization. So I think over time, many categories are creating better experiences, recommendations, and opportunities for people through data collection and creating powerful sets of data that are personalized and attributed.
Very interesting. What role has mentorship played in your career?
Mentorship on both sides, I think, is really important. I moved to Portland 2 years ago, but for the entire time I lived in Los Angeles, I was involved with an organization called the Fulfillment Fund, which works with you're matched with a 6th or 7th grader, and then you see them hopefully through high school and on to college, which was one of the most wonderful experiences for me that I can think of. My mentee is now a junior in college, and it was wonderful to be able to experience Los Angeles with her, but also be able to see high school and college from a totally different perspective. Nice to get kind of like a youthful view into the experience and be helpful, and try to figure out how I could share some of my experiences and some of her experiences as an educational mentor, which sometimes felt more like being a cool aunt. But I've been that's something that I was really involved in Los Angeles. That I moved to Portland right before COVID, so I haven't been able to plug into the way I'd like to here yet. But it's something that's really important to me in terms of giving back. And then on the other side, I've been really lucky to have a series of wonderful professional mentors in academia and in business who were absolute game changers, knowing that they were Team Courtney. And when I needed a different perspective or I needed to talk through a major life or career change, knowing that they had a holistic, experienced, unbiased perspective that they could share with me, or I could run a email by or a quick bullet. I've been very, very lucky in that sense. So I think upwards and downwards, mentoring is incredibly important. And then I think when you think about it on a peer-to-peer level, it's so important to surround yourself with strong professionals that you admire and respect. And building that network can be incredibly powerful as a group dynamic. But I think it's that kind of peer-to-peer mentoring is a rising tide that lifts all ships.
Absolutely. And something else that just occurred to me, it also gives you an opportunity to practice listening.
And listening to really different kinds of people. So one of the things that I loved about the work that I did with Fulfillment Fund was my mentee grew up in inner city Los Angeles. I grew up in rural upstate New York. We, on paper, have incredibly different backgrounds. I think that her high school was 4 or 5 times the size of my high school. And it was so interesting to hear her perspective and her experience, because it's so different from mine. And I loved that. And it was a great opportunity to listen and a great opportunity to learn from somebody very different from you. It's nice to step out of your bubble.
Yeah. But conversely, the fact that backgrounds were so different helps both of you see the world a little bit differently, your world a little bit differently, right? So the saying opposites attract, I mean, there is a reason that it's so valuable to talk to someone outside of your normal everyday. So
I completely agree. It's so important to challenge yourself with different opinions, meet people from different perspectives and backgrounds, learn and continuously learn and be curious about the world. Because if you limit yourself to what you know and what you think you know, you will probably limit the amount of learning that's happening every day. And that's when you really get old.
Yeah. All right. Really quickly, I just want to talk about these triathlons. How did you get into this? How did you find your way to run, swim, and bike?
So I was a soccer player and a cross country runner growing up. I played soccer and ran track in college. I then had an inglorious retirement from running and transferred, as I mentioned, and then I didn't run for many years. During that time, my dad became an Ironman, and I remember going to my first triathlon and crewing for my dad, who was out on the course swimming, biking, and running for something crazy like 15 hours. And I remember thinking, this is the dumbest sport I've ever heard. I'm tired just watching this guy. And all along, my dad said, oh, you would love triathlon because it's a great way to support running. It's more cross training. You should do triathlon. And I insisted to my dad, I quit running. I don't know how to swim. You're always tired. I'm never going to do triathlon. Well, like life comes at you fast. My dad ended up convincing me to do triathlon many years later, and I did my first triathlon as sort of a gift to my dad on Father's Day. And he was right. I loved it. Swimming, biking, and running keeps me from being over specialized. It helped me stop getting injured, and it helped me build, I think, a much stronger and more durable physical body, which has been great. I've really enjoyed it. I specialize in half iron distance triathlons, but what I really love is guiding. So I guide for a visually impaired paratriathlon, and that is really what excites me the most. So on the swim, you're tethered to a blind athlete. Then you ride a tandem bike together, and on the run, you're tethered. And it's just incredibly motivating and inspiring to see visually impaired athletes complete any sports, but particularly triathlon, because it requires so much listening and coordination. So I think it's a good combination for my personal interests and skills. But I'm a Robin, not a Batman too. So I think guiding has really been the excitement and the motivation for me in triathlon.
Yeah. I don't know if all of you can see this, but Courtney, your face is just lit up talking about this.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously brings you so much joy, but there are a lot of really valuable life lessons and skills that translate into business that you just talked about from something you really love, right? And you took a challenging situation with your running and made something really positive out of a new experience, something that you could apply those old skills from to this new thing and come up with something even better. So, and different. It doesn't have to be the same. So, what a great life lesson.
Yeah. Thanks so much for calling that piece out. I think it's life is always going to give you challenges, and it's how you respond to those challenges. And you can learn and pick your head up and march onward. And find the lesson. And I think that that's so important. And that resilience to find the lesson and stay optimistic makes a big difference in business, in life, in sports. And I feel like that resilience and that ability to smile even when you have to grit your teeth gets you further than you might initially think.
Totally agree. Couldn't have said it better. All right. We have a few questions coming in from students, so I want to get to those. Erin wants to know, going back to the startup question, Erin would like to know, do you feel like you use big established tools, or do you ever use startup technologies in your work?
Both. I think when you work in a very large company, you usually have enterprise platforms and tools that are recommended or required. And then there's the opportunity to bring in new tools, new software, new companies, new ideas. And if you're on If you're lucky enough to be on the innovation team, like I was at AT&T, you get to be the person who suggests some of those tools and opportunities. But it's definitely a mix of both. And I think if you're only using, if you're only considering the incumbent in a specific, the incumbent application, you may be limiting yourself. So it's always good to be considering new software, new ideas, new companies.
How does a startup get in the door with a big company? What's the best way to like get on their radar screen? Asking for a friend.
I think that varies wildly by the category and the company that you're trying to get in with. I think accelerators do a great job, though, of bridging that gap. So accelerators that are partnering with large companies who are coming to see startup showcases and highlights, I think is a great way. And I think that's very accessible for large companies too.
Yep. Makes sense. Okay. Shayna has a question. What advice do you have for students graduating today? We still don't know what's going on with the world, even in 2022. I feel like that's always true.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Sheena, I've never known what's going on. I would think that Kashi would probably say the same thing. I recognize that the class of 2020, 2021, and 2022 feels uniquely uncertain in a global pandemic. But I would just note that you really never know how your life or your professional career is going to shift. I think it's always, from a dorky data perspective, it's like, here's why you document everything just in case something happens, someone else can take over. But it's really, I think from a personal perspective, it's thinking about what your big goals are and what do you want to do when you graduate, and have a big goal, but be flexible on how you get to that big goal. So steadfast in your goals, flexible in your methods, but take the time to think about what your ideal end state is. And that may change too, but then give yourself grace that it may be a winding path to get there or a different path than you initially expect.
Love that. That's a great piece of advice. Okay, Karen would like to know, how do you find personal time with such a critical role?
I get up very early in the morning, which is hard when I travel. But I think being an athlete growing up and through college gave me excellent time management skills, and helped me recognize how important personal time and training is for me to show up as my best self. And I think it took me a little bit of time to realize that if I don't have time to train, blow off steam, release stress through sport, I don't perform as well personally and professionally. So I just started waking up earlier to get my training in before work. And if I'm sort of peaking for competition, it's the world championships or a big race, or I'm, the athlete I'm guiding for pacing really needs me to be absolutely peak. I might train in the morning and train at night and try to keep everything really dialed in, but clawing that time back for myself because I know that it lets me show up as my best for other people was a really important lesson for me that took me a while to learn. But yeah, it's prioritizing that because you know that it helps you help others. I'm not sure I'm gonna get the title right, but there's an article called Executive Fitness, and that executive fitness is, I think, a really big piece of. Sorry.
It's okay.
That's a really big it's something that a lot of people understand, whether it's doing your yoga in the morning or getting in meditation or going in for a quick run. Having a little bit of time that's just for you helps you show up as a better leader, for many people, a better leader, a better friend. And it's not fitness for everyone. It might be something else. It might be meditation. It might be walking your dog. It might be quiet time alone with your partner. Whatever it is, recognizing what helps you, and then ruthlessly blocking the time for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I put things on my calendar, and then if it's on the calendar, it doesn't go anywhere.
I mark certain things in my Outlook as visible to other people, so other people can see the thing that I'm blocking and doing, because I also want to model the behavior so that other people take that time for themselves. So and one of the maxims at Nike is make sport a daily habit. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
But certainly sports has not always been a priority anywhere else I've ever worked. And I've been working from home almost the entire time I've been at Nike. So I'm not taking advantage of that beautiful pool in Beaverton.
Yeah. Soon, hopefully soon enough. Okay. Along the lines of the triathlons, Lillian wants to know, what would you say is the best training program for a tri? She wants to do one.
Okay. This is my totally personal Courtney experience advice, but there's so much in triathlon that can initially feel inaccessible. People want you to buy a triathlon bike. They want you to do all these goofy things. You don't need all of that stuff. So keep it as simple as possible. And the New York Times, of all places, has a very simple training plan called Try a Tri that I think is great. And I've sent to half a dozen people who have all successfully done their first triathlon. And I think keep it simple. Don't buy things you don't need. Don't invest too early. I raced my entire first season of triathlon on a regular bike. I bought the bottom of the line or borrowed the bottom of the line stuff until I knew that I wanted to commit. So keep it simple, swim, bike, and run. Occasionally put those sports together and you can do a triathlon. It's really fun. But I joke that triathlon is swim, bike, run out of money if you're not careful. So make sure you like it before you invest in anything.
That's funny. The biking is the piece that is like most concerning to me.
Well, I didn't swim. So I took swimming lessons in my 30s so I could race triathlon.
Oh my gosh.
See,
you can do anything.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it helped that I had a background in one of the other sports, but it's incredibly humbling to show up somewhere and look very athletic and then have no idea what you're doing and have a bunch of little kids ask you, hey, what are you doing here? Why didn't you
Are you teaching us?
Yeah. No, I'm here to talk to the fishies, listen to the fishies just like you.
That's amazing. That's very humbling. All right. A few more. Des would like to know, what do you think are the secrets behind getting to where you've gotten to?
Gosh, that's a great question. I'm a big believer in working hard and being nice. So I think creating connection, working hard, showing your value, showing that you are doggedly committed to the goal, and being respectful and open-minded and empathetic to your colleagues, I think helps a lot, because you might be surprised professionally when you run back into someone later down the line who admires your work ethic and your communication. So I don't know if there's any secrets. I think working hard and being nice kind of sums it up. Some of it's just the industries were changing at the right time and I had the right mix of skills. But I'm not sure there's any, I don't know if there's any secret.
But that's kind of a secret because people don't realize that it can be that simple.
Yeah, I mean, just maybe that is the secret. It's
be nice is like a very underrated thing. I mean, it's a big one.
Yeah, I
nice.
agree.
Like, yeah.
And you're in it. I think it can be funny because sometimes nice is, I'm also a believer that clear is kind, and that can be a tough balance for nice for some people. But I think it's work hard, be nice. And then it's that same advice that I gave, I think, to Shayna, but steadfast in your goals, flexible in your methods. So don't be afraid to go off the course that you think you're on, because maybe that's a shortcut, or maybe it's a long cut, but it's a long cut that's going to give you a lot of really great experience and help you determine where you really want to be.
Yeah. Mina wants to know, is there a lesson in life you wish you had learned earlier?
It's a really good question. I think there's many. There's a lot of people who seem like they have it all together. And it's like the cartoon of the duck on the top of the water that's furiously pedaling. Mm-hmm. Many people that you are looking out at that seem like they have it all together are either struggling or working much harder than they have let on, or have been doing lots of hard work leading up to it to make it look that easy. Mm-hmm. And I think you want to not be so quick to judge people who are making it look easy or seem like they have it all together, because maybe they're furiously paddling under the surface, or maybe they've been working tirelessly to get to that place, or maybe they're working very hard to make it seem that way. So I don't know exactly how to sum that. I don't know exactly how to sum that up in an articulate way, but
it's the Instagram effect. It's like everything's beautiful, but it's really hard. I mean, people that take those like beautiful travel pictures, it's a lot of work to put those together. They set those up all day.
This one.
Yeah.
But that's right. It's things are things that seem easy may not be as easy as you think they seem. You're often seeing people's highlight reels. If you're only looking out at the curated view, you never see what made the cutting room floor.
Yep.
And so much, it takes so much hard work. And this is personal, professional, athletic. There's so much hard work that's going on behind the scenes for so many people. And don't misjudge that. And don't negate that, because it gives you more clarity into your struggles and challenges, but also I think lets you be a more empathetic and active listener and a more open-hearted person.
Yep. I think that's right. I think that's a great place to leave it for today. That's great advice, and we all need to remember that. So, students, remember you can find all of our past shows at supernovacommence.com, also on YouTube. Please sign up for our mailing list if you have not done so already. We have all kinds of cool new things coming your way in 2022, new opportunities, scholarships, grants, internships, like offers, you name it, we got it. So get on the mailing list And yeah, Courtney, do you have any parting words for our students?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for those of you who joined and for your great questions. I've got a couple that I'm gonna continue thinking about. So thanks for leaving me with lessons and things to think about, and just good luck. This is a challenging time. It's always going to be a challenging time. Keep your heads up. You're doing great. And thank you so much, Kashi.
Yeah, thank you. All right, students, have a great week. Courtney said it. It's a challenging time. Make the most of it. It's unique. You'll never get to work from home or school from home, maybe ever again. So take advantage of it. And remember, as always, it's a blessing to be a blessing. So be kind to people. We talked about that today. Be kind to people as you go through your day today. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see y'all soon. Bye.